Good evening, everyone. Before this begins, let me say if you haven't read Hell's Reach by Aaron Dembski Bowden or watched Richard Boylan's Hell's Reach, then you need to stop watching this immediately and go check those out. Links will be in the description below.
General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium as excess rageous. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
Reclusiarch of the Black Templars, the hero of Hell's Reach, Merek Grimaldus. In his most famous sermon to his brothers, he spoke the words for which he is revered. Turn that mindset into a grind set.
To most Space Marines, duty and honor is enough. To excel is to live. To be an instrument of the Emperor's wrath is life. Being a Space Marine is to be a cut above the rest, to fight wars without end. The bulk of the ranks of the Astartes is made up of these warriors, who if they hadn't gone through the process of becoming a Space Marine, they would have gone on to almost certain success in regular life. In the ranks of the Astartes, however, they are simply line members. Then there are those who believe that duty and honor are not enough. They exist to be a cut above the rest, to lead the pack. These Astartes wake up constantly in the urge to be the first among their fellows, seeking promotion and advancement, and seeking control. These are the Alphas, the Captains, the Lieutenants, and the Chapter Masters. Then there are those like Grimaldus, the hero and the menace, the rare Sigma male variant of the Astartes. What is your grind set? We are going to take some time to understand the actions and behavior of this exceedingly rare type of Astartes with Grimaldus, and we're going to talk about the grind set itself that Grimaldus is on. Grimaldus has been on a grind set that simply doesn't conform, which is why I'm going to call it the Grim Grind. The Grim Grind is the core of Grimaldus, and he wakes up on this grind daily. To understand this grind set, we have to break it down, and to do that, you have to start from the beginning. Grimaldus doesn't have an origin story, no homeworld, no parents, no upbringing to speak about. We can only assume that part of the Grim Grind is that everyone who knows anything about what your favorite color was as a child gets murked. After all, if someone knew you loved lime green instead of the blood of your enemies, it takes away from your menace to society image. The first thing we know about Grimaldus is that he was shanking heretics as a member of the Sword Brethren of the Black Templars. The Black Templars are a second founding Space Marine chapter who, much like Grimaldus himself, are on their own grind. The Black Templar gave the middle finger to Guilliman's Codex Astartes, declaring that the Space Marine equivalent of a self-help book was for pussies. For 10,000 years they have been flying around, recruiting, killing, and making their own rules, while all the while the Inquisition has been constantly hounding them because they don't follow the Space Book. In fact, if the Inquisition ever found out how many Space Marines were in the Black Templars, they would promptly begin shitting themselves because of the pure threat that they would present. Even GW writers are scared to actually admit how many Black Templars there are, with the estimates rolling from a few thousand to a few thousand per fleet. The Black Templar could be at Legiones Astartes level of numbers, and probably are, but they are so spread out throughout the galaxy it's hard to pin it down. What's even more savage than that is who founded them. The Black Templars weren't founded by some pencil pusher or sycophant. Suck it, Robuta Guilliman. They were founded by fucking Sigismund. The Black Templar prefer to do things the way that Dad did it, and they follow Daddy's footsteps very well. They have guns, they have ships, they have artillery, but the preferred method of dealing with problems in the Black Templars is to quite literally murder fuck everything within a 5-mile radius to death with swords, axes, and hammers. Grimaldus is no exception to this. So now, let us deep dive into the Grim Grind. Grimaldus was a member of the Sword Brethren, an elite group in the Black Templar Crusade, underneath High Marshal Ludonius, and one of 30 in this group to participate in a conflict known as the Battle of Fire and Blood. Grimaldus' activities in saving the High Marshal and murdering entire population centers full of heretics caught the attention of the Reclusiarch Mordred, and the Sword Brother was inducted into the Chaplain Order. Grimaldus instantly went into the Grim Grind, and before long it was a clear thing to everyone that Grimaldus would replace Mordred once Mordred got fucking murdered. Now this was clear to everyone except Grimaldus himself, and that is because of the grind itself.
Mordred is dead, slain by the archenemy. You, Grimaldus, have lost a master. We have all of us lost a brother. It was the belief of Reclusiarch Mordred that upon his death, you would be worthiest of our brother chaplains to stand in his stead.
After over a century of service with Mordred, Mordred died, and Grimaldus became the Reclusiarch of the Black Templars, and instantly set off to the world of Armageddon with High Marshal Helbrecht to have a meet and greet with a who's who of the Imperial leadership that had shown up to defend the planet from the largest greenskin invasion seen in the Imperium for over 9,000 years. It is here that Grimaldus began to display the grind set of a Sigma in a group setting. He is brought to a meet and greet where he encounters fellow Sigma Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. Everyone was doing what they should be doing, being respectfully silent and listening to the old man speak. Suddenly this pissant from the Angels of Fire started running his mouth with his pissant opinions, and then he started talking like he was actually someone worth listening to. Grimaldus wrecked his entire argument with knowledge before deferring back to Yarrick. When Grimaldus put down the beta insurrection from the Angels of Fire, he found out from High Marshal Helbrecht he was going to be sent down to the surface with 100 Black Templars to lead the defense of Hell's Reach. Honestly, Grimaldus was not happy about this. He was convinced he would die on the surface of Armageddon, and when he heard that the Black Templars would lead the orbital engagement, he had hope. But when Helbrecht sent him to the surface, he was convinced that he was going to die. Did he whine? Did he complain? Did he bitch? Did he moan? A little. A little. But then he got back on his grind. In order to explain the creature that is Grimaldus, I have to elaborate on something. Grimaldus, as part of his grind set, exists at the position that is somewhere between borderline assault and battery and flat-out genocide. In fact, to stand around Grimaldus for more than 20 seconds invites such behavior, and the only thing that keeps him in check is that he is a Black Templar, and just like Sigismund, their solution for almost any problem is to stab it repeatedly or beat it with blunt objects until it and its ancestors stop moving. Yet they don't do this to those that are loyal to the Emperor and human, because if they did that, the aforementioned Black Templar would be a traitor, and even though the Astartes are capable of some insane feats, it's rather hard to beat yourself to death with a Thunderhammer. So what do Black Templar do with their anger? They store it. They store it like chipmunks store nuts or bears store fat on their bodies for the winter. The longer they are out of combat, the more homicidal they get. And according to the meeting with Yarrick, he was going to have a few days to a week just to wait to murder something. Grimaldus made himself busy, showing up and butting into the command staff meetings, reviewing all the files and scaring the living hell out of the locals, just being a menace to society. The grim grind is in full effect here. Grimaldus didn't even want to be on the planet. He wants to be in orbit with a Black Templar fleet, blowing shit up and boarding and running everyone's fades. In fact, when he finds out the Black Templars have engaged the fleet overhead, he almost forgets that everyone around him is a loyal servant of the Emperor and terrifies some poor comms officer because he is a menace. He accepts all he can do is wait for those he can murder to come to him. At this point, it's known in the command staff meetings that regardless of him being placed in charge and regardless of him not having the rank to actually be in charge, he is now in charge because he desired it, wanted it, and nobody was willing to disagree with him. When Princess Zarhar of the Legio Invigilata let it be known she was considering taking her Titans to form up with the rest of her legion at the Hemlock River and leave the city of Hell's Reach, he demanded a meeting with her representative at that moment in the city. The representative of Princess Zarhar was a Monterate Primus. Now, a Monterate Primus is literally second or third in command. They pilot the Titan using input and output from the Princeps themselves. Note that this is not a low-ranking member of the Mechanicus. Key aspects of the Grim Grind are in the following statements. First, he points that the city needs them, to which the Primus declares it is not truly his decision. Grimaldus declares that he needs to talk to the Princeps herself, to which the Primus declares that that is why he's there, as her representative. Grimaldus presses the situation after a few moments' thought, and the Primus flatly tells him no, that Grimaldus cannot meet with Princess Zarhar face to face because Invigilata tradition says so. Well, no one told Grimaldus he should actually care about any of that.
Your objection is noted and duly ignored. What? Arterian, ready the Land Raider.
Grimaldus rolled up in a Land Raider to an Imperator-class Titan with a few of his boys and instantly started being a menace to society. He basically told an entire crew of an Imperator-class Titan and its owner that they weren't shit, and he doesn't give a fuck what they want or think. He's going to go talk to the person that runs the thing. The crew actually had half a spine and stood up to Grimaldus, and even Grimaldus' squad was done with it. Grimaldus saw this for what it was, a multiple-choice test of his leadership, and he checked the box for homicide, but before he could submit his test for grading, Princess Zarhar invited him up. When meeting with Zarhar, Grimaldus recognized someone who was as much of a menace as he was, and he actually liked that. When she asked him to remove his helmet to speak to her face-to-face, he did so, and displayed how good he was with the ladies. She agreed to walk her Titans to defense of the city. That was easy. Less than 5 minutes after he got back to Hell's Reach, Grimaldus was back on demon timing, and he hadn't even taken time to take a shit yet. He hadn't been a menace for about a half an hour, so understandably he was getting cagey. All this talking was bothering him. You see, as a member of the Chaplain Order, he was expected to use words, but what set him apart was how he inspired with actions. Right now, his biggest enemy was inaction, and it's hard to inspire your men with action when there was no one around to kill. Fortunately, something was gonna fall out of the clear yellow irradiated sky. A ship from the Orc fleet entered the atmosphere and crash landed near Hell's Reach, and instantly Grimaldus seized on the ship, falling to go butcher a few greenskins. When he was done wiping out the first Xenos population center on Armageddon, he was told the rest of the greenskins were coming. This pleased Grimaldus. He instantly went to the wall where the greenskins were already advancing, and even though he wasn't known for his words, damn if the man can't give a speech! All the defenders were nervous and trying not to piss themselves, and he basically shit-talked the orcs until the city was hyped up. It was the first instance of the millions of Grimaldus fans chanting his name!
Hurl yourselves at these walls, inhuman filth! Die in our blades! I am Grimaldus of the Black Templars and will cast your carcasses from these holy walls!
Okay, seriously, if you haven't watched Richard Boland's Hell's Reach movie with Jonathan Keeble's voice, you are fucking up. Get on your grind set now. After the first day, the orcs had Hell's Reach under siege, and Grimaldus decided to summon the Imperial Guard adjutant because he had heard about a legend. When she found out what Grimaldus was going to do, initially she was about to panic because he flat out told her he was going to roll up to a holy site of the Mechanicus and commit the following crimes: trespassing, breaking and entering, grand larceny, desecration, murder 1, a laundry list of cybercrime, crip walking without a permit, theft, and grand theft auto. She was about to shit literal bricks about how bad it would piss off the Mechanicus until Grimaldus did this.
I am not asking for your permission, Adjutant. I am asking if you wish to come with us.
Look at her face. Look at it! She instantly forgot all that stuff about how bad it was to go because she jumped in that Thunderhawk to roll with Grimaldus and the boys. Sure enough, they broke into the site where something called the Ordinatus Armageddon was being kept, and Grimaldus left behind a tech marine to hotwire a literal Nova cannon set up on tank tracks. Grimaldus rolled back into Hell's Reach and instantly went to pray, but the second that he got back, Princess Zarhar was demanding to see him. He was praying to the Emperor at the time, so he told her to wait, which pissed her off to no end. When he finally went to see her, he was on pure demon timing, even though she was beyond irate, and she instantly started yelling about him about how he should be killed for what he did, and went off on him because he was still wearing his helmet that had the skull visage of, as she put it, his emperor. He told her to watch her fucking mouth, and then made fun of her religion to her face before telling her he was gonna do what he wanted, and he gave zero fucks about her issues with it. She snapped back at him that she was ordered to kill him for what he was doing. At that point, Grimaldus went absolutely Satan timing and had his boys roll up in 4 Thunderhawks, and with the Titan's shield down for maintenance, it was more than enough to blow up the bridge of the Titan. Grimaldus was flat vibe-checking her and told her that people die every day, and if she tried to stop him from leaving or hurt him at all, that they could both die right now. Understandably, she let him leave. Grimaldus went right back to running every orc's fade, and so did Princess Zarhar, until the Titan that she commanded walked right into a trap and got a skyscraper collapsed on it. When that happened, the Titan's machine spirit rushed in and took her, using the shame of her defeat and the ambush to basically tear her soul out of her body. Who did she call out to with her dying breath? Grimaldus. Grimaldus went straight to the Titan, and while the Moderate Primus kept insisting that she was dead, Grimaldus heard none of it. The Primus tried to dead up him and say that she was absolutely dead, and it was the truth. Grimaldus then looked back at him and said the most Sigma shit ever.
Then the truth is unacceptable.
He then began to berate the seemingly dead princess, giving her the most insane motivational speech ever. He demanded she remember that she told him that she would walk. He literally shamed her soul back into her body until she remembered who she was and took back control of the Titan. What kind of gangster shit is that? The rest of the Siege of Hell's Reach went about as well as you'd expect with the amount of hardware and manpower the orcs were throwing at the defenders, aside from a few instances where Grimaldus literally superhero landed after saving another Templar, and then berated his guys for basically not paying attention to the battle. There isn't really a lot to talk about. Grimaldus just laid waste to the orcs and made them pay for everything they tried to do with a boatload of lies. He wanted all the smoke he could find and ran every fave that presented itself. Any orc that started doing anything close to approximating a monologue got instantly hit in the face with a Crozius. God, Daddy Sigismund was proud about that. The Templars, though, were dying, but they were dying slowly, and they were reaping an insane amount of bodies. His troops actually got ambushed and got rescued by the ultimate Chad guardsman, Andre, from the 703rd Steel Legion Stormtroopers. When people talk about the Siege of Hell's Reach, they always remember the Black Templars. They always remember Invigilata. They always remember the Salamanders. Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's a bunch of gibberish, and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Andre. Now you'll never forget him. Andre had one request, and Grimaldus respected it because Andre was on a grind of his own. He told Andre's captain about his deeds. During the siege, Hell's Reach was reinforced by 70 Salamanders, and there's a distinct difference between the Salamanders and the Black Templars, primarily in that the Salamanders actually give a fuck about the civilian population, while the Black Templars view them as obstacles in any battlefield. This became a problem when the Salamanders prioritized protecting civilians over murdering the orcs. So much so that only after a week of fighting, Grimaldus was so annoyed with them that he turned down an honor that they offered him. The Salamanders were leaving to join the rest of their chapter in another fight on the planet at the Hemlock River, but they had a favor to ask. Chaplains are rarely asked, and I mean rarely asked, to bless the warriors of another chapter, and by rarely I mean you might only find about 10 other instances where it actually happened. The Salamander's captain offered this honor to Grimaldus, but the Reclusiarch was so done with the Salamanders that he didn't care. It probably didn't help matters that Grimaldus had watched people gushing over the salamanders and heaping praise on them, while they had gotten used to the Black Templars a long time ago. In the end, he told the salamanders to get the fuck out of his city. At this point, Hell's Reach was less of a hive city than a smoking ruin. Grimaldus and his Templars had killed so many orcs that the number couldn't be counted, but there are always more orcs. Not only that, the largest orc gargant that had been built was rolling towards Hell's Reach, and the orcs were calling it the Godbreaker. Everyone knew it was over and it was time to pick a spot to die. Grimaldus consulted his grind and picked a temple. He rolled into the temple with his boys and instantly made himself at home without asking permission first. He instantly became friends with his sister who ran the temple because she was on demon timing just like Grimaldus. Even though she told Grimaldus that his problems weren't her problems, but now she had a problem and intended on solving it with a gun. The build-up to the last stand of Grimaldus and his Black Templars is legendary. Princess Zarhar went out like a boss, fighting the Godbreaker after literally killing all of the other Gargants that were accompanying it, only failing to kill the Godbreaker after the Moderati Primus went bitch mode in the last few seconds. Let me take a second to acknowledge Princess Zarhar. She had been fighting almost non-stop for well over a month, killed Gargant after Gargant, and had literally died just to come back and continue slaying. She committed flat-out genocide on a scale that was mind-boggling, and her Titan only failed to kill the largest Gargant constructed ever due to the fact that one of her crew flinched at the last second. Zarhar, even though her Titan was falling apart around her and she herself was dying due to the psychic backlash from the Titan's damage, didn't just stand there and let herself be killed. She literally went to hands with Godbreaker, and even after all that, she almost won. Zarhar is a fucking legend. Zarhar got avenged almost instantaneously. Remember that series of crimes I said Grimaldus engaged with against Mechanicus in order to get the rolling Nova Cannon? Yeah, Grimaldus' tech priest Arisian rolled up when the Godbreaker was moving towards the temple and shot that motherfucker. I don't care how big the orcs build a Gargant, it isn't gonna stand up to a weapon that gets mounted on battleships and cruisers that are a few miles in length. Grimaldus' last stand is pure legend. The orcs finally broke the defenses of the temple and swamped the defenders. Grimaldus grabbed the first one to reach him and strangled it to death while hero posing and delivering one of the best lines I have heard said under any circumstance ever.
I have dug my grave in this place. I will either triumph or I will die. No pity, no remorse, no fear.
Around him, all of his boys were getting killed, but that didn't stop Grimaldus, who was now on full demon timing, and was dedicated to murdering all comers. The orcs literally began to artillery barrage the temple to collapse it. Grimaldus was still fighting, still grinding, until he was the last Templar standing, his best friend having died standing back to back with him, laughing when he said goodbye. Grimaldus started laughing himself. It was gonna be a beautiful death. Grimaldus cackled as he continued murdering, proving that you can't spell slaughter without laughter. He was laughing right up until when the entire temple collapsed on him.
I will die on this world. I will die on Armageddon.
Grimaldus actually survived, and the siege was over because of an ecological event known as the Season of Fire. The orcs couldn't hold Hell's Reach against a new assault from outside, and they knew it. Grimaldus pulled himself out of the rubble, dragging 3 servitors with relics from the temple with him. The second he emerged, the remaining population instantly lost what was left of their minds, declaring him a hero, and chanting his name in the streets. He was given the title Hero of Hell's Reach, and the population let him keep the relics, even though he offered them to the city. Grimaldus instantly went from digging himself out after massacring orcs to digging into another situation where he would massacre more orcs, and piss on the Inquisition cornflakes to boot. A message had come from the Celestial Lions, who the Inquisition was picking on because the Lions had dared to have an opinion over something shitty the Inquisition had done. By the time Grimaldus got to the Lions' base camp, there was only 96 of them left, out of 1,000. The rest had been killed in combat due to the Inquisition fucking them over and giving them bad intel, fucking with their gear, and generally being a bag of dicks. Grimaldus found himself speaking to the most senior member of the chapter left, who was a damn squad sergeant named Dubaku. Long story short, the Lions wanted to die, but we all know how Grimaldus feels about people dying without his express consent. Grimaldus went back to Hell's Reach and asked for volunteers, which most of the Steel Legion wanted to volunteer to serve with the hero of Hell's Reach. He then bum-rushed back into the Manaheim Gap alongside the Lions. The fight ended with Dubaku being the only Celestial Lion left combat effective fighting the Orc War Boss alongside Grimaldus, and it literally cost Dubaku an arm and a leg. Grimaldus helped Dubaku kill this war boss, wrapping his chains of office around the orc's neck and yanking it up. Now, first of all, I can't really imagine a neck so thick that Grimaldus simply wouldn't have ripped his head off. But it gave Dubaku the chance to shoot the orc through the skull, which the Celestial Lion did. The battle was effectively over when High Marshal Helbrecht ordered a mass drop pod assault on the area. Grimaldus is one of those characters in 40k. It's no surprise he's jokingly referred to as the Primarch of the Black Templars, because by the Emperor's balls is he a beast. Just remember, you all, stay on your grind.